Ooh, what can I say? I love pulseras. Call it the Mexican material girl in me, but I just love wearing something cute that reminds me of Mexico. And my boy Berto does a really good job of making stuff that you can wear if you're still in the broom closet or if you're like me and you want to let your inner bruja roar. And if that's not what you're looking for, if you're looking for someone to do tarot readings, well, Berto does those too. And let me tell you, he's really accurate. Every time that I have lost something, I message him, and within 2 minutes after his reading, I find it. He's gifted. So please check out Las Flores de Guadalupe, Berto's shop. See what magic he can whip up for you. Hi everyone, you're listening to another episode of Tu Tia Bruja. I am just so thankful that you're taking the time to listen to the show, and I want to take a moment before we jump into it to thank all of the folks listening in Australia. We just charted at 171 on the Australian Spirituality and Religion podcast. Thank you. Every season, the show has been fortunate enough to chart somewhere, sometimes various countries. And it's really rad that we've been able to find a lot of radical witches out here just trying to make the world a little bit better. And even if you're not so radical, even if you're just willing to understand how to use magic as a form of resistance, that's okay too. On this week's episode, my friend Nina Blanco, she joins us on the podcast, and she did something really amazing in the spirit of collaboration for Valentine's Day, and she partnered with a women's shelter near where she lives, and she raised enough money to create 25 baskets for all of these individuals that had like shampoo and toothpaste and tampons and just basic essentials that, women who are unhoused would need. And I believe they raised more than enough money, and then the rest of the proceeds went to the organization. I love stuff like that. I love that I am surrounded and I'm friends with people who want to make a difference in the world. If nothing else, I hope that I, in some way, inspire you to just do something, to try and make a little bit of a difference in the world. We're all magic and we all see the world in different ways, and we all have a way of making an impact. In this episode, speaking of making an impact, we talk about Alicia Cardenas, who was the Mexican muralist and tattoo artist who was shot down in the Denver, Colorado area. She was one of the artists in the Smoking Mirrors exhibit at Museo de las Americas in Denver. In addition to that, we talk about Nina's first time at a botanica. Let's get into the episode, and Nina can tell you a little bit more about herself. I have a friend of mine who I haven't had on since season 1. I am joined by the marvelous, the talented Nina Blanco. Thank you for being on again.
Thank you. Always a fun time getting to talk the spookiness with you.
Yeah. And it's funny because the last time we spoke, that you were on the show, because not the last time we spoke, because the last time we spoke was when I think I was in Denver, like following the trip to Denver, which was a really fun time. There's something about Denver that's just magical, truly.
You think so?
I do.
I love it out here.
Well, okay, like we made it out there, right? Like for that trip that we went to see you, and not only did we make it alive, which I think was magical in itself.
Right, exactly. That was like a miracle in itself. My goodness.
So for those who don't know, I went to Denver, and for whatever reason, my fiance, it was like a blizzard, and he just decided we're going to go. And honestly, thinking as to why he was so determined, because the last time we were going to go out there was right before COVID.
Yeah.
And I think he was really determined to just go out and see you and the boy and Bonzo. Whenever we all hang out together, it's always such a great time.
It is. We do have a lot of fun together.
We've been friends for a really long time. And, I'm just glad that we're keeping the magic flowing through us.
Me too.
That's what that trip really was, dude. It was magical because it's like all of these weird circumstancy things just happen. Like one thing that comes to mind is there's a particular tequila Fortaleza winter blend, which was like impossible to find.
That's right.
And it's like, what are the odds? This one bar that we went to only had
Yeah.
that reposado. And we were like, okay, let's make it a double.
Yeah, you guys it's funny because you asked the bartender, like, "Oh, okay, what kind of tequilas do you have?" I don't even think you guys asked for that one specifically, and I think she just, like, brought it up, like, "Oh, we have this, this, and then this special one, winter blend, blah, blah, blah," and you guys, both you and Ian, like, there was a sparkle in your eye, and you looked at each other like, oh, "Let's do it. This is the one."
Yeah, because that one, we had been trying to find a bottle of that one for months. And it's one of those that so many people, they do like a limited amount, just their winter blend, finger quote, special one that they just started doing a couple years back ago. Yeah, so it's really hard to track down. That was like one of the things. Another one was there was that art exhibit that we both wanted to go to
Mhm.
that was doing their first Friday. So we got to get in for free.
Yeah, it happened to be First Friday, which is like they do it first Friday of the month, and it is year round. I had never been, always wanted to go. And then, yeah, this museum that we wanted to go to happened to be a part of it, and we got in for free.
The museum we went to was the Museo de las Americas, and they were doing a Chicano art exhibit called Smoke and Mirrors. That was the first time I've ever cried because of an art piece.
Yeah, it was definitely an emotional, it was just emotional being there and just knowing the story behind everything. And yeah, it moves you.
It was right after, no, maybe not right after, but it was like a few months after Alicia had been murdered.
Yeah.
And just seeing her piece, La Llorona, it just really fucked me up. It's so sad that like I don't know. I think since Selena, there hasn't really been someone Mexican who is of that magnitude. I think that there are community leaders and there's a lot of beautiful people doing amazing things. And
Hmm.
it's really sad to get their light snuffed out by just someone that's so full of anger and hate.
Right.
It's a reality. It happens.
Exactly. And to kind of like add on to what you are saying and how you like brought up Selena, even, it's like for me, like I love Selena so much because you learn her story and you relate to her. And just like being Mexican and growing up with different traditions or just different things in your home, you're like, that's me. I relate to that. And so it kind of like for me, when I looked at Alicia's artwork, and it was a painting to just describe the story of La Llorona, which we all know, we've all heard that story a million times, but just like that was her choice of artwork this time around, and seeing it and then just watching that and relating to it. Like, I know this story. I know where she's coming from with this. And, they made that movie, which was terrible, by the way, a couple years ago. I saw myself in that photo almost because it's like, oh, wow, this is a great idea in this piece of artwork. And she did it because she relates to that, because that is her, that's part of her story. And then for like me and you, it's like, I do relate to this because I know that story very, very well. And I love this piece of artwork because it represents something that I've never seen in a piece of art before. And then knowing the story, the background behind her, and they did make it into a memorial with flowers, and they had little faux candles and stuff like that. And it's like, it kind of brings you back and you're like, oh man, this tragedy happened. And yet I am relating to her art. And then this awful thing happened to her, and it gets you. It gets you.
I just felt like everywhere I turned after we went to the museum, I just saw all these reminders of her, just like reminding me she was a pillar in this town. Like she was someone who really did have a huge impact.
Hmm.
I think we were on Broadway at one point, and there was a friend of hers has a shop or something, you had said.
Yeah, it was near where her shop was, which is where the shooting happened. But I think all the businesses on that street on South Broadway and this, couple blocks in particular, they're all friends with one another because they are all community members. They all work together. And she just had another memorial in their shop window just to pay homage to her.
Yeah. I don't know. I think it hits so much closer to home when it's a Mexican woman is by someone's definition, right? Like they were like not acting in a way they should or like stepped out of line. It's still something to be afraid of. I particularly have like a weird feeling about being in spaces that are so predominantly white sometimes, because there is sometimes a ping of like, is this a safe space?
For sure.
With my career and stuff, that's something that I've really encountered. And that's why podcasting for me has been so liberating, because it's like I can say whatever I want without consequence or being made to feel like, oh, she stepped out of line. Podcasting is something that you're exploring and succeeding on in your journey. Do you mind going into what that process has been like for you? And
Yeah, most definitely. Podcasting has been a lot of fun for me. I'm on month 3 of doing it, so I'm still a newbie. But I mean, having a background in radio, and I technically had another podcast with a coworker at my old job. And it's just this, like you said, new creative way to be able to express yourself and say what you want. And you can swear on it. And on the radio, you can't say bad words. And makes it that much more fun to do. But being able to finally just do it on my own and create my own space, do whatever I want, say whatever I want. There's no time limit or, any of that I have to worry about. It's been just mostly a lot of fun. And I think that, I hope anyway, that just me having fun and doing what I do and just trying to entertain and speaking into a microphone, and the combination of that has turned people onto it, and they do happen to like it. They find it entertaining or they find it relatable, which that's all I've ever wanted out of my career, is to be relatable, to be able to be myself and be every other person, because we're not all that different, most of us, and to entertain and to just like do my thing. And it has been a lot of fun. But yeah, it's been a good time. I've gotten a decent amount of listeners on it. Eventually one of these days we'll figure out how to monetize it, which that's the goal, right? I guess in terms of the future, I want to definitely keep doing it. Although I'm not going to lie, doing 2 episodes per week is kicking my ass, but it is a lot of fun. It's something I do want to keep doing, and something that I think I'm going to be kind of protective over, because, with trying to collaborate with other entities on my podcast and selling it, or, things like that. Or if I do get another job on air in the radio, like, no, you can't have it. And no, you can't not tell me I'm not going to do it, because I'm going to continue to do it. It doesn't need to be a part of your radio station. This is my thing. And I'm over here doing my thing, and you're not going to tell me that I can't do it. But I don't really know what it looks like.
well, it's still so early on. That's the cool thing about podcasting, is that it does evolve. What it starts off as doesn't necessarily mean that's what it's going to continue as. But also, you got to stop swearing. You're really killing Norma.
Dude, I can't. I really tried that one episode. My mom Norma yelled at me for swearing so much on my podcast. So I tried. I really did try, and I timed it. I missed one swear after like watching it back, and it was like 2 minutes in. And then when I noticed I swore, it was like 6 minutes in. Like, I failed. I can't do it.
You tried.
I did. I gave it a good shot.
Speaking of your podcast, though, it's really good. I suggest that if you haven't checked out her show, you should do that. But one thing I want to go on the record and call you out on, when we were talking about like going to the Botanica and stuff, you said that I said the one near your house was scary. And I'm like,
You did.
I believe I said intense.
Did you?
I did. It's not scary in the fact that like it's like, ooh, this is terrifying, but it's more like, whoa, there are people here who practice like shit I don't even like know.
Crazy shit.
And I've been to quite a few botanicas now. I went to one in Texas, I've been to one in Miami, I've been to one in Denver. There's surprisingly a few.
Yeah.
I really like that one near your place because it has cat nails in it. I don't use cat nails in my practice.
What?
Because I like cats and that makes me kind of sad.
Yeah.
But I would just remember like when I went for the first time, which we didn't end up seeing each other, I texted the photo of the bowl and I was like, oh my God, look at this.
You did, yeah.
Well, what did you think? Because that was your first like botanica. So what was baby's first botanica trip like?
I feel like maybe I have been to one before in my childhood, like in Mexico, and just probably didn't realize it. Well, when I first walked in there, so I walked in there with the mindset of, oh, this is going to be scary. So as soon as we open the door, there's this giant statue of like death right there. And I'm not gonna lie, Bex, it scared me. It was like walking into like a Halloween store and there's like a big scary like clown statue or something. Like you weren't expecting it, and it was just like, ugh, like it just like a quick little scare. Like I'm not gonna lie, it did kind of scare me a little bit. There was, of course, a ton of different statues there, but that statue in particular happened to be right by the door and gigantic, like life size. So I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
But then, obviously you take a step inside the actual store and you look around and I'm like, oh, this is like a normal store. Okay. That obviously went away, but there was just like a quick second that had happened. But I walked into there and, looking around, and you went to go talk to the owner of the store looking for whatever you needed. And I just wanted to take my time and look at everything. And okay, you said that there's like intense ingredients there, things that you don't use. But I just wanted to like take my time and like look at every little thing that they had, every little herb, every little spice, every little stone, every little thing, and just be curious as to like, well, what do you do with this? Like, I don't know anything about this stuff at all.
I feel like every time I go into one of those, I don't necessarily know what to do with all the things. I don't know. Sometimes it just clicks. It's like, oh, I could do this or I could do that. Something I've been kind of interested in as of late are crystal grids. People who use crystals for various things will create like a grid on themselves. It's supposed to help alleviate various energies and just help with whatever they're needing assistance in alleviating, what have you.
Okay. Yeah.
There's something kind of more comforting to me about going into a botanica than just going into a witch shop, because Ritual Craft Witches in Denver does a really good job of paying people whose traditions it is and trying to keep it as ethical as possible, because that is something that lacks sometimes in the witch and or occult community. But yeah, I really just enjoy that botanica because I feel like whenever I go in, it's like the real fucking deal. They all speak Spanish.
Yeah.
They like, if you ask them, they're going to suggest like a million things. And I don't know. I just really enjoy it. I think I've been at your place now like 3 times, possibly 4, like, and stayed for like a few days or whatever. But it took the second or third visit to finally find that shop that's so close to you.
Yeah, it's like boom right there, very close to my place. So I'm glad you found it, and like you said, I'm totally down to like support local. This is obviously a small business, and yeah, you gotta love it.
Yeah. Have you been back since we went?
I have not. I just don't know what I would ever need there.
Listen, there's that agua fresca place like right around the corner.
Yeah, I did tell my fiance about that. I told the boy, and I'm like, we gotta stop there, and I didn't even know that was there, and had no idea it was like technically a chain. I'm like, that's kind of cool, and it's right there.
If you're an elote person, they all have that too.
Okay. At that shop?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's funny because there's one in Mexico too, because they're a chain. La Michoacana, if you're not familiar, is
Yeah.
delicious. But yeah, they do like nachos and they do like elotes and aguas frescas and paletas.
Right, exactly. Which is something that I love in Denver. There hasn't been a city I've ever lived in that like really has it, except for like that I've seen in Chicago, and only in certain neighborhoods. But like Denver has its fair share of like paleta men who are just walking around with their carts and doing their thing and selling paletas, and even like snacks and elotes and stuff too. And I'm like, that's pretty cool. Like I've never lived somewhere that actually has people still just hustling on the streets like that.
Because elotes and paletas and stuff do hold a very nostalgic place in my heart from going to Mexico as a kid,
Totally. Absolutely.
If there's a frozen banana vendor, then I'm
Oh
there
my
too.
gosh. I forgot about frozen bananas.
I do love frozen bananas.
So good.
Is there a frozen banana vendor in not in Mexico, in Denver? Have you seen one?
I have not. I have not seen one, but I'll have to be on the lookout.
Yeah, if you find one, I need you to like take a photo and let me know ASAP. Thank you so much for being on. Where can everyone listen to your podcast? And you just started another one with a former co-host as well. So please tell us where we can find both of those.
Okay. Well, my podcast that I'm mainly doing solo is the Nina Blanco podcast. You can find it on Spotify. It's also on YouTube, and I like record my episodes so you can just see me making all the hand gestures and stupid faces that to your heart's desire. But I am there. You can also follow me on my social medias, everywhere, but mostly on Instagram at the Nina Blanco. And the other podcast that I do with my buddy, his name is Dubs. It's called Yitty, Yitty, and you can find it on Spotify and YouTube. Yitty, Yitty. That one we do once a week, and it's super fun. And we just yell at people the whole time.
Yay. I'll include the links for those in the show notes. And thanks again for being here.
Thank you so much, Bex.
Thank you again for listening to the podcast. All the ways that you can support Nina are down in the show notes. I've also included the link to the botanica that we went to in case you want to support, in addition to ritual craft. And also, I'm sure you heard the ad for Las Flores de Guadalupe. Berto's doing amazing things and has just started doing more readings and services. So please check out the link in the show notes to support him. Additionally, Berto and I just made the choice that all of the proceeds from our pulsera line, we've decided to donate all of it to the Last Prisoner Project because we are both individuals who indulge in cannabis, and, we were very fortunate to have Renee give us the funding to be able to create this pulsera line. It was definitely a Patreon and listener donation effort, and I want to thank everyone who donates to the Patreon or has given me a tip for the show. It's a way of indirectly making a difference. So thank you again for supporting the show, for supporting the merch, for supporting our creative endeavors. I am just really eternally thankful that you invest in this podcast and care about the stuff that I make. If, you don't want to make a monetary contribution, that's totally fine too. If something in one of the podcast episodes has really spoken to you, I really recommend that you please write a review. That is the best way for other people to also find the podcast if it is something that you enjoyed and want to help someone find it. So thank you again, but I value you and I appreciate you, and I look forward to us chatting again. Bye.
Yeah.